Hello fellow humans and welcome to the Madhouse. I'm Josh and today I want to talk about American gods. Unless you've been living under a rock recently, you will be aware that Neil Gaiman's mega best-selling novel was adapted into a television series for Starz and Amazon Prime. The show has largely received rave reviews across the board with, in my view, flawless performances from Ricky Whittle as the protagonist Shadow Moon and Ian McShane as the enigmatic Mr. Wednesday.
So what would I call you if I was so inclined?
Shadow Moon. What might I call you?
What's today?
Wednesday.
Today's my day. I could use a fellow like you.
The story follows Shadow Moon when he is released from prison early to attend his wife's funeral, and on the way he encounters some interesting people that leads to a whole new adventure involving a war between the old gods of Odin, Ostara, Anansi, Chernobog, Gaia, and the new gods of media, the internet and technology. And it's a fascinating look at not just modern America as where this place is set, but modern society as a whole in the Western world and how it's changed and whether or not abandoning your old ideals is a good thing and what it means to be a part of it. And it's intriguing, it's exquisitely written, the performances, as I've mentioned before, are fantastic. So I thought if you enjoyed the show, I'd give you some book recommendations based off of it. Of course, the most obvious one is American Gods itself. Neil Gaiman is a master storyteller, and how to describe this fully? You will never regret picking this up. It's heavy, it's long, it's slow, and worth every single minute of it. In typical American fashion, it is essentially what's that word you'd call it? A road trip novel. If you can, I recommend you get the author's preferred text, which is longer than the original release, but so much more fulfilling. And if you can't handle a book this size, normally go for the audiobook on audible.com, because the narration is flawless. They have two narrators, one whose name I can't remember, but who does the voices for all the characters, including Mr. Wednesday, absolutely brilliantly, and the second narrator is Gaiman himself, narrating the stories of the gods coming to America to begin with, and he has the most gorgeous voice, ideal for telling stories. Speaking of road trip novels, you have to start with probably my favourite, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. It's probably not what you think of when you think of road trip. You would go with On the Road, but this one I enjoy immensely. This isn't my preferred edition of the text because that one's at uni, but it serves its purpose. Douglas Adams is one of the greatest comic writers of the last century, and he's just really clever and funny. The story follows Arthur Dent, who is one of the last surviving humans after the Earth was demolished to make way for a space highway. He is saved by his hitchhiking friend Ford Prefect, and they go on an incredible journey across the galaxy.
The answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything is 42.
It's just a hilarious, fun road trip book, but a road trip of unimaginable scale. You'll love it. If you want to give Norse mythology a try, but you don't want to pick up a copy of Beowulf or the Aida, you can start with The Gospel of Loki by Joanne M. Harris. Given the popularity of the 4 movies, and specifically of the character Loki from it, it was unsurprising that someone wrote books about him. And this one is, well, not the Marvel Loki, an incredible trickster of the sort that is rarely seen in modern fiction, because of course Loki is the ultimate trickster god, although I have to say Odin's a bit of a tricksy bastard too, and you get to see just how different the Norse gods were from their people in many respects, because the Vikings themselves, they tended to prefer death in battle and a more violent lifestyle, but the most powerful and most prominent of their gods were not the warriors, though of course they did have those, but the thinkers, those who solved their problems through their head, through their cunning and wisdom, and through trickery. And it's just intriguing to see how such two ideas can overlap one another, and this is just one of the best versions of it I've encountered. Now, if you find you're enjoying some of Neil Gaiman's style, then I recommend you branch out into more of his books. Of course, you could go for Coraline or Stardust or The Sandman, which are always very enjoyable, but I would recommend Good Omens in collaboration with Terry Pratchett. Good Omens is about the apocalypse, and follows the intriguing Demon Crowley and the ridiculously fussy and probably really gay Angel Aziraphale as they attempt to stop the end of the world, which has been somewhat impeded by the fact that the Antichrist has been misplaced and raised with entirely the wrong family, and instead of raining fire and destruction on the world, raises a hellhound as an ordinary puppy. There's just a lot of fun, weird stuff in here. The Spanish Inquisition, demons who, rather than trying to steal people's souls on an individual basis, design the motorway surrounding London to be the ultimate form of driving people's souls ever so slightly into depravity. And it's just really funny and dark, and I cannot stress how much I love this book. It is my second favourite book of all time. And last but not least, if dark fantasy is more your take on things, then I recommend the Gormenghast trilogy. This is a very odd series. In fact, it's almost impossible to describe, but let's suffice that there is a castle of unimaginable horrors and strange goings on and a lot of adventures that happen within it, and you will encounter some very bizarre people and occurrences as you go through this. It's dark, it's nasty, and I love it. And I'm sure you would too if you were to give it a try. What do you think of these recommendations? Have you enjoyed any of these books, or do you have any recommendations for me? Because I'm always looking for more. And if you thought these were any good, then tune in a week or so's time when I'll be giving recommendations based on The Handmaid's Tale. Of course, there will be more videos in the meantime, but The Handmaid's Tale is something that I have a lot of feelings about, and I'm sure I can make it entertaining somehow. If you fancy long-winded rants and dystopian and freaky and creepy book recommendations, then hopefully I'm the one for you, and if not, well, have a nice day. C'est la vie. I don't know the word I'm looking for. Oh well. Au revoir, tatty byes. I'll see you later.
Ohne dich hat der Regen keine Tropfen. Ohne dich hat das Meer keine Flut. Ohne dich hat der Berg keinen Gipfel. Ohne dich ist mein Herz ohne Blut.